Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. My name is Mark R. LePage, and you are listening to EntreArchitect Podcast, where each week I speak with inspiring, passionate people who share their knowledge and expertise, all to help you build a better business as a small firm entrepreneur architect. This is episode 297, and this week I'm speaking with Clifton Harness, co-founder of TestFit, and I asked him, will technology replace the architect? This episode of EntreArchitect Podcast is supported by our platform sponsors, ARCAT, the online resource delivering quality building material information, CAD details, BIM specifications, and so much more at arcat.com. And FreshBooks, the cloud-based accounting software that makes running your small firm easy, fast, and secure. Spend less time on accounting and more time doing the work you love. Clifton Harness, welcome to EntreArchitect Podcast.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. While obtaining his Bachelor of Architecture from the University of Texas at Austin, Clifton Harness was the first B-Arch to obtain certifications from the McCombs School of Business in business and in real estate. After graduation, Clifton joins Streetlights Residential, a Dallas-based real estate development company. And prior to starting his current company, TestFit, Clifton worked with college roommate Ryan Grieg. Is that how I say that?
Grieg.
Yeah. Ryan Grieg. I want to get that right. So it's Ryan Grieg after work on weekends. This work would become Residential Engine, the precursor to TestFit.io. Clifton lives in Dallas with his wife, Annalise, and their golden doodle, Brinkley. Clifton and Annalise are team members at Apartment Life, a ministry devoted to fostering community within apartment buildings. And he's also a member of the current cohort working with our friends over at 060, the AEC Accelerator. We've been focusing on 060 throughout the past few episodes. So you've heard Andrew Zukoski over at Join.build. We spoke with Jim Ronay over at SoLiquid last week. We spoke with Herman, one of the co-founders, Herman Aparicio, of co-founders of 060, back in episode 294. So the last few weeks, you've been hearing all about 060 and the companies that have been working with them. And I'm super excited. I love doing this. I love startups and I love technology and I love hearing about how these companies and their innovative ideas are advancing our profession. So Clifton Harness, God bless you. And thank you for hanging out with us today and sharing a little bit about TestFit. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. We need to clean up our bio, make it sound more fun.
Well, that's no problem because the first question I'm going to ask you is your origin story. So you can clean it up right now. Go back to where you discovered architecture, what inspired you to become an architect, and give us that story from where you started to where you find yourself today with TestFit.
Yeah, great. Yeah, origin story. All right, so I'm not a storyteller, so I'll try to make it as fun as possible. My dad's a real estate developer. He does garden apartments. These sort of 15-acre sites that have the same building copied, all over them. And I sort of remember as a kid looking at that and thinking, man, like I'm sure we could do better than this. You kind of you look at garden apartments and you think, man, like we probably could design things better than that. And that's what initially got me interested in architecture as a career. It would be a way to help my dad out. And in that process, I met some really awesome people. Rick Archer, who's a principal or the CEO at Overland Partners, a firm in San Antonio. He's been a mentor of mine for about 15 years now. And so in the middle of high school, I knew I wanted to go into architecture. And so I started building a relationship with him. And Overland is a very interesting firm in that they don't really have a process. They just have values that they try to make their buildings meet. So, their values are, building is strategic, systemic, sustainable, beautiful, experiential, meaningful, contextual. So, every building should be all of those things. And so their KPIs for the buildings are pretty insane for most people most commodity kind of architects to try to accomplish, especially if a developer is, squeezing you for squeezing the design out of you basically. So I initially, saw architecture as a very meaningful, long-term career path, something that I could do and be a meaningful member of, my community. Then I go to architecture school, and kind of in my bio, it was, I was the first kind of guy that was like, no, I'm going to go get some other business related, certifications. And I actually had to get studio. I had to convince UT to change my studio time so that I could go attend business classes. And they were, the administration at the time at UT was pretty against doing that. Like, you want to go get business classes? Are you crazy? But the reason why I did that was that connected with, I wanted to figure out how to do real estate development on these really dense urban infill sites. So I ended up working as an intern for Riverside Resources in Austin, Texas. It's a very small development shop, but they make really impactful buildings. They're really great. They dot the skyline, and I ended up being a development intern there, and they started introducing me to concepts like yield on cost and internal rate of return, and you start to learn that there's this whole other half of the design process that is rooted in finance, and it's sort of like a Rubik's cube. Like, it's all just one Rubik's cube, but there's different views. You can look at it from the left, you look at it from the right. Well, as architects, you're really only looking at the building design, and in order to be the best designer, and this is my opinion, in order to be the best designer you can be, you also need to understand the pro forma and the finance and everything that kind of the lifeblood of the project, which is money and cash flow. So I remember just sort of being mystified by that whole side of the process. So became an intern, started working in real estate development, started to understand finance a little bit better, and in that process, I started looking at how weak the connection between pro forma and building is. In the Excel model, it's like, we have 300,000 feet of rentable space, and that's how the building is represented in the financial model. Which, as an architect, like, you're just like, wow, it's not even qualitative. You can't win a qualitative design argument with a pro forma because it's all based on quantity. So I remember thinking, man, like, that's something that could be completely disrupted if we start changing how we do pro formas. So this point in time, I am nearing my end of college. I got married before I graduated. Lovely bride, Annalise. She had been out of school for about a year, and BArcs are 5 years, so I was a year behind. And she wanted to move to Dallas to go to DTS, which is a Dallas Theological Seminary. And so I was looking at companies in Dallas, and all my peers are, they were going to go work at HKS, and we're going to go work at these, the 3-letter acronym firms, and or Corgan, or there's some really great design firms in Dallas. But I was looking around for a development company that would give a damn about design. And there's this really interesting company in Dallas called Streetlights Residential. And they were doing the vertical integration, before vertical integration was cool. So they have, the construction company, the design company, the development company, the investment company, and all these companies are housed under the same roof. So you couldn't ask for a better place to really learn as many parts of the process as you could. And up until this time, like, my experience in architecture had been, red lines and, draw wall details. And, you don't really know why you're drawing these wall details, because you're young and you don't really understand that there's a whole building that has all these different materials. And but thankfully that kind of stuff was super boring to me. And I was more interested in like how the whole deal comes together and how the how the site plan interacts with the pro forma. And at Streetlights, they gave me really I was running kind of two jobs at the same time, working 60, 70 hours a week. The first half of my job was site planning, laying out buildings, relationship between building and parking, and solving unit mixes, which means you're getting the right quantities of units of different types. Small studio units compared to large 2-bedroom units. Different markets perform based off of those unit mixes. And the other half of my job was drawing unit plans. So we had, this whole 10,000 unit plans or something that they had built. Not 10,000. It might be 250 different unit plans that they had already built in the last couple of years. And our job was to consolidate those into a kit of parts that could be reusable, for the next 30 projects or something. So we took, these 200 units, we boiled it down to 8. We had 8 units that we use in every single project. And so when you're working in this sort of vertically integrated company, you're trying to eliminate as many variables as possible, so that everybody can be on the same page and everybody can move more quickly. So the site plan and the kit of parts approach helped, not just the design group, but the construction team. They had the kit of parts just completely priced out. They knew, how many dishwashers we'd need, how many square feet of tile we'd need. And we would know within 15 minutes. It was really incredible kind of process. But what I noticed was the chink in the entire thing was the site planning. It took forever to get a single iteration done. And as many architects know, the more iterations you can go through, typically the better the end result. And so I started looking out in the industry of different generative design solutions that were out there. They were all pretty much impossible for a single person to figure out how to do it in an afternoon. So that's kind of when the thinking about doing TestFit as a software started to percolate in my head. I had done a little bit of stuff in undergrad, but it was I didn't have a vocabulary to really apply it to a professional setting. So Streetlights gave me that vocabulary, and I connected with Ryan Grieg, who was my roommate for a couple of years while in Austin at the University of Texas, and he's just a brilliant software engineer. And I said, Ryan, I have these very specific business related problems. Do you think that you could help me solve them? And a lot of them are just math based, and software guys love math. He's really great at math. And so the first thing he built was like a terminal application that would help me solve a unit mix. And then we sort of built on that from there. And we did it on nights and weekends for about a year and a half. Ryan ended up getting laid off from his mobile game development company, which, mobile games is probably even a riskier industry to be in than architecture, because it ebbs and flows pretty horrendously. And so he started working on, it was called Residential Engine at the time. We hadn't thought of marketing or branding or anything. We just said, we'll just call it Residential Engine. And we did a beta. We had a couple of customers, early adopters, test it out. And the moment when we had a development guy get to flex a site plan in real time, he goes, "This is the future. This is how we're going to do things in the future." And so we ended up shipping, or I ended up quitting my job at Streetlights. The C-level leadership there was basically like, either you're going to quit and go do this, or you'll work here and be miserable, and you'll miss out on a really cool opportunity in your life. And so they've been really supportive. They've been a paying customer for a while now, and couldn't be more thankful for Streetlights and what they've done for us.
So
that's sort of the
Streetlights. They weren't, or maybe there wasn't an opportunity for that, but they weren't interested in having you develop it in-house with them, or did you not ever give them that opportunity?
No, we pitched it, but I think to Doug Chestnut's credit, the CEO there, he was kind of like, we're not a software company. Like, you'll have a better chance of doing this on your own.
Right. So they know their strengths. They don't want to dive into a new technology that they're not equipped. They're clearly focused on doing what they're doing and making that as efficient and effective as possible. This would distract them from that.
Their mission is to do 3,000 units a year or something, a huge amount of units. And while building software for that sounds really useful, it's not their core mission.
Right. Okay. So he encouraged you to take it and run with it.
He literally kicked me out of the nest, basically. Yeah.
And so what did you do after that? So now you're out, and now you have to do this full time. Was it a full confidence, or was there a little bit of panic involved, or what do you do?
Oh, so much panic, man. You're running a not venture backed, customer funded startup, and you only have like one customer. So you kind of, the other day I was talking to one of our advisors, and he's like, well, how'd you get this thing off the ground? And literally sitting in a Starbucks from 7:30 in the morning to 10 p.m., crawling the internet, just finding people that I think might be interested, copying, guessing email addresses. People hide their email address from people like me. But I got pretty good at guessing them. And in the first 30 days, I sent, I think, well over 3,000 or 4,000 emails to industry people. And that's what got us our first, I think, 15 customers. So if you're paying attention, the hit rate for sales is extremely low. 15 out of 3,000 is pretty low. But we had no credibility, no track record at that point in time. But our first couple of customers, STG Design in Austin, and then Allen Harrison Company in Houston, first two.
So before we get into what TestFit is, I want to know what Annalise thought when you lost your job and you were about to take on this. Was she fully supportive and confident that this was the right direction, or was there some resistance?
Yeah. So, Streetlights, they kicked me out, sort of like, you need to go do this, but they didn't they didn't fire me or lay me off. Right. It was, about a year in, they said, so you're actually making money. Okay, so we'll fill your position. So they had left my position open for me to come back in case I had failed. But Annalise, she she knew that I always wanted to have my own company at some point, but she thought that it would be like when I was in my 40s or when I had learned about the world, and so she was like, well, we just had to really move that timetable up quite a bit. And so I made a budget, said, okay, we're not going to spend more than this amount of money in savings. And we definitely did spend more than that amount of money in savings to get TestFit off the ground, but it was money well spent, I think. She today she was like, when are we going to start trying for kids, and when are we going to buy a house? And I'm like, well, we got to de-risk the company a little bit more before we can start doing that.
Yeah. And that's why I asked, because it's it's not just you making these decisions, right? When you're married and you have a family, it's you're not making those decisions all by yourself.
True. She was the hardest one to convince, I think, out of everybody. Yeah. My parents are like, yeah, go do it. And my wife's like, hey, but we have savings that we should probably, not spend.
Right. So tell us about TestFit. What is TestFit, so we can understand what it is and how it works?
Yeah. So I'm speaking to architects, so I'll give you the architecture version. It's practical generative design. And that means that within 45 minutes of touching our software, you'll be able to generate something useful. Sometimes less than, 45 minutes, but, you just say 45 minutes. And what practical generative design means is that we try to solve problems in the planning, part of the design phase or design process that have already been solved before. So the current process is roll out a piece of trace paper on top of some kind of survey and just start drawing things with a scale in your hand. Well, most designers have already solved that problem a million times.
Right.
If you're a site planner by trade, you've literally site planned things hundreds of thousands of times, either in your head or physically doing it. So we said, okay, we're just going to embed sort of the knowledge of a designer into an algorithm and see what kind of good results we get out of that. So, for example, never draw parking garages, rectangular parking garages ever again. Our software just takes care of that. It draws the ramp, it counts all the parking stalls for you. It draws it to your specifications of what dimensions of parking stalls you want, how many levels tall is it. So whenever I see designers roll out trace paper and draw a parking garage, I'm like, you're wasting your time. Like, this has literally been solved with software. You don't need to do this again. And then we solved some basic massing problems. So TestFit is a new urbanistic modeling tool. So it's trying to hold down property edges. It's trying to do denser buildings. And, the thing about housing buildings is that they're very algorithmic. Draw your double-legged corridor, place it around a garage. Then you put the units on top of the corridor hosts the units. The staircases are hosted by the corridor as well. So we took what I had learned, the hard way while site planning, with trace paper and fat tip, flare tip markers, and we codified it into generative design. So it's generative. It generates stuff. But we call it practical because we have a lot of co-creation tools. And what co-creation means is you're partnering with software to get a job done. It's not you versus the software. It's you with the software to get the job done. So the best co-creation tool that I think we've shipped with so far is a manual massing mode where like TestFit will generate just garbage sort of partie. And so we have this manual mode that you can go in as a designer and fix it and make it better. So that's when the software is good at counting units and solving parking stalls, and it's good at like sort of the boring stuff. And as a designer, you can start doing the more important things, which is like, how do we address the street? What is the scale of the building, and what are our setbacks and being compliant?
So for an example, if we have an empty lot in a dense urban environment and we wanted to design a new building for that space, TestFit very quickly will give you multiple solutions for how that space can be used, given the parameters that you give it, correct?
So we'll give you one solution. We'll automatically generate one solution. You as the user are responsible for generating more solutions. Our goal is to not do this sort of cloud compute model where you throw a design problem into the ether and you expect it to find a good solution for you. That's actually pretty stupid, and it's a waste of electricity in my mind. So instead, we try to generate, a building diagram that is useful from the very beginning, and then allow the designer to fix it, to make it better. We do have some, generative design tools that'll just generate a bunch of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of stuff. It's not really useful. What's more useful is if you craft with some kind of intention every single scheme that goes into, to comparing schemes.
We'll be right back to our conversation after this quick break to say thank you to our platform sponsors here at EntreArchitect, ARCAT, and FreshBooks. Have you been to arcat.com recently? It's the #1 most used website for finding building product information, and it has a new look. ARCAT has updated their site to get you the data that you want that much faster. Their search now allows you to choose what kind of information you want, like CAD, BIM specifications, and you only get those results. Just that data, that's all you're going to get. ARCAT is also constantly fine-tuning their search engine to make sure you keep getting the information that you ask for, fast and easy. Of course, it's still free and it requires no registration, not even a login. It doesn't require any email. It does not require any money. It's free. If you need building product information and you haven't yet used ARCAT, it's time to go check it out. If you've never tried ARCAT, head over to arcat.com and try it out. You'll be glad that you did. That's arcat.com, ARCAT.com. Go check it out and let them know that EntreArchitect sent you. In case you were wondering, 192 hours works out to about 2 business days every month. 2 business days. Well, why the math? If you're an architect and you're using FreshBooks cloud accounting software, that's the amount of admin time that you can save every year. How? Well, FreshBooks is so fast and so easy to use that it changes the way that you deal with your paperwork. FreshBooks is the simplest way to be more productive, more organized, and most importantly, it will get you paid quickly. You can create and send really professional-looking invoices in under 30 seconds. And when you email a client an invoice, FreshBooks can show you whether they've seen it, which puts an end to that guessing game on, whether they got that invoice or not. If waiting for a client's check in the mail is slowing down that cash flow, with literally 2 clicks, you can set yourself up to receive online payments. Oh, and your clients, they will love paying by credit card straight from their invoice. FreshBooks helps you avoid having that awkward talk with your clients about past due payments. FreshBooks automates late payment email reminders. This is my favorite part. So you can spend less time chasing payments and more time working on your projects. If you have any questions whatsoever, FreshBooks' award-winning customer service is amazingly helpful. They're super friendly and they have zero attitude. Plus, a real live person usually answers in 3 rings or less. To claim your month-long unrestricted free trial, go to entrearchitect.com/freshbooks and enter EntreArchitect in the How Did You Hear About Us section. That's entrearchitect.com/freshbooks. ARCAT and FreshBooks. Please visit our platform sponsors today and thank them for supporting you, the EntreArchitect community. So is that one design, that one layout that it generates, is that from the algorithm's point of view, is it the best solution for that site?
No.
So what is it? What's the benefit of using TestFit for that example?
Yeah. So everybody's saying, okay, well, I want the most efficient building. I want the best building. I want the, to whose KPIs.
Mm-hmm, right.
So if you ask the land seller, the best building is the one that, gives them the most amount of money for their land. If you ask the architect, it's one that's really well crafted and it has a base, a middle, a top. It's got, rhythm on this edge, and it's got, all the sort of design oriented goals, achieved. If you ask the developer, well, it's the one that gives him the most yield on cost or the, ROI. So everybody's got a very different opinion about what the most efficient building is. And you could build a system to solve for all of those opinions that's done with, algorithms, but the human mind can already do that really well. So why rebuild, a system like that? So the point of TestFit is we can generate options, 100 times faster. We can generate parties 100 times faster, and it's all quantitatively, it's all been tabulated for you. So, guys that are drawing out parking and counting parking stalls manually, you're wasting your time. That shouldn't be part of your job. That should not be something that you have to do. And furthermore, you're a human, you're fallible. you're going to count things wrong. So, software is an algorithm. It's a procedure for counting things, and it's better at it than we are.
So we're using it for the areas that are sort of repetitive and redundant and the dumb part of the buildings, to put it into a easy way to look at it. And then the things that take more thought and more design and more skill, that's the work that we're putting in addition to, or an overlay to the
Right.
dumb side of the building.
Right. We're a really solid skeleton generator for the 90% of the building that is algorithmically generated. The other, I got in trouble on a LinkedIn article that I wrote because I said, the future of architecture is basically the 10% of the building that an algorithm can't kind of figure out. So what that means is like the facade, the common spaces that have, design intervention from the sort of repetitive commodity parts of the building. That's really going to be where the future of architecture in commodity buildings is going to be. The stuff, especially if you get this stuff linked up to a factory, you're as a designer, you're more of like managing the whole sort of logistics process more so than a designer.
So I think when architects, and that's who's listening here, are mostly architects, when they hear that and they see software like TestFit, they get nervous. They feel threatened that technology, this is very early on in where this technology is going. What do you say to those architects that see their profession being taken over by technology?
Yeah. So I've got a Bachelor of Architecture, and what I did was partner with a software engineer. The easy answer, I think, is look, you're gonna need to do a lot more software. You're gonna need to start building software. You're gonna need to start doing more computational design. You're gonna need to start doing things in a much more automated way. That's on sort of the process side of things. But on the product side of things, the profession of architecture is going to look very different in 15 years. You're going to be solving far more complicated problems than just buildings. Societal problems. That's where the future.
Where do you see the future of architecture going? I've had this conversation with other people. People have heard me talk about this in the past. What is your take on where the profession is going, if they're willing to evolve and go there with it?
Yeah. So at our very basic thing that every architect is a problem solver, but we're also can live in the subjective world. So we're an objective problem solver that lives in a subjective world. So you can apply that problem or that problem solving ability to like affordable housing and things that homelessness is a good example. And I would look at Overland Partners, really. They do some pretty interesting work around designing stuff. But most of the time, or some of the time, they'll come back at their client with, this isn't really a design problem. Like, you might need to restructure how your organization thinks, instead of applying design or instead of building a 2 million square foot office building, why don't we just restructure how the company works currently? So your role as a consultant to your client is going to not just be for the building itself. There's way more things that we can solve.
Yeah,
and we can monetize our time for.
Yeah, I agree. I think that architects, the definition of architecture is going to change. The role of the architect is going to change. And those architects that evolve with those changes will thrive. And those architects that resist that change and try to hold on to the tradition in the past, while technology and software and computers take over much of the work that we used to do because we had to, because there were not tools that allowed us to do it more efficiently or more effectively. If we don't evolve, we become obsolete, and some other profession takes over the areas of construction and building and the built environment that we could control that we could have an impact on, because someone's going to take on that role. And if we don't, someone else will.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of let's look at WeWork for a second. Big kind of implosion at the end there, but Case was a computational design company that did a lot of architectural design work. WeWork acquired Case because they could do interior fit outs for like 50 cents a square foot or something, and the typical architect is like $5 a square foot. So they had done it by automating a lot of things. So there are going to be firms that can figure out the process. And I think in architecture, we're really good at products, right? We're really good at this is the finished result. Here's the renderings. Here's Inkscape. We already have a photoreal rendering software. This is what it's going to look like. But I only think about 10% of architects are really focused on process, how you get from point A to point B, and how you can do it much more effectively. And I'm one of the weird, you go to these BIM conferences and you're amongst your people because we're all the weirdos that are in that 10% that are just really focused on, okay, how do we just move data and how do we just solve these problems quickly instead of waiting, long periods of time for answers to, questions to be answered.
Yeah, I think that also not only is the profession changing, but I think the generation of architects that are coming into the profession are already coming in with that mindset that technology is here, that we can use that technology, that we will use it to our benefit. The profession, they're much more flexible in what the profession is, and the definition of what architects do. The role of the architect is much broader for the generation that's coming in today. When you speak with them, they speak differently. They're more entrepreneurial. They're more problem solvers. They're using the technology. They've been brought up with technology. It's just part of their DNA. It's not something it's no longer just a tool that we're using. It's part of the process. It's part of creating. And so the profession will change with that as well, just through the evolution of the people who are becoming architects.
Yeah. So let's just look at like red lines for a second. A generational difference in red lines. The early on, my first, sort of intern job, here's a stack of plans that have been redlined. And your job is to go into the CAD file and like literally change, words or move a dimension string because it was annoying or something. I don't see a lot of millennials wanting to print out a giant stack of paper and then writing out all the red lines and then handing them to somebody else. You're doubling the effort, right? You're saying we need to change this part of this thing, and it would take you the same amount of effort to just do it in the software as it would to write it out in a red line. So redlining, I think, eventually will be a shadow of what it is today. You also are going to use, Bluebeam and stuff that's more collaborative, and you can start to share red lines with people, and it's no longer on this analog piece of paper that can get lost in the shredder. So that's one thing that I see is like immediately when I came into the architecture profession, I was like, why isn't this guy just fixing this stuff on his own? Because it would, and you kind of learn that, well, he's not really comfortable in Revit, so that's why he wants to have it printed out. And so, so like that kind of guy, he's, no longer fits with the technology. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more examples, but redlining is like something that everybody has experienced.
That's a very good example. So we talked a little bit, Clifton, about the future of architecture and where it's going and where we can go with it. What's the future of TestFit? What do you imagine TestFit becomes, and how does it change the way we do architecture?
Yeah, so we're a little bit different than some of the other kind of startup companies. We are not venture funded. We're customer funded. So at this point in time, the future of our roadmap is really governed by what our customers want. And they like the concept. Almost universally, the concept is liked, but it's a matter of creating, the generative design algorithms that can address different market sectors, and creating the logic to solve more complicated buildings. So it's really solid at doing, like 5% of the market today. But if I'm a firm owner and, we're going to invest in TestFit, which is, pretty expensive software. It's more expensive than Revit. It's got to do more for me as a firm owner. So in the near term, we're answering to customer requests and building, a more stable solution. It's got bugs and stuff. But in the long run, we're going to try to be a more generalized solver that can do more building types and really affect the bottom line for some of these smaller firms that maybe don't have enough money to really hire a computational designer or somebody that can automate some of this stuff for them.
Is the lack of venture funding a strategic decision, or is it that it's difficult to find funding at this point?
No, not difficult to find it because we're a startup that is making money and has customers and has traction.
Why I asked.
Not difficult to find it. It's finding the right money that is hard.
So it's a strategic decision. You've decided that you don't want to be bound to a venture capitalist at this point.
Right, at this point. Yeah. Unless it is like a home run, like a group that really feels like they can. Smart money is really kind of what we're looking for. I'm not going to go take like $1 million from some Russian oligarch that is just trying to get money out of Russia, right? Like, sorry, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. All right, Clifton. So what is one thing a small firm architect can do today to build a better business for tomorrow? That's a question that I ask everybody, and I'd love to get your thought on that answer for that question.
Yeah. My initial thought is like talk to JAM, JAMB. They're in our cohort at 060. They're really focused on how they can provide value for, mid-sized to small-sized firms, which I guess is like anywhere between like 15 people and below. They've got an interesting game plan, but on the technology side, I would really focus on your tech stack. You can't keep thinking in terms of, we're an AutoCAD firm or we're a Revit firm or we're a, Windows firm or, we're a Mac firm. It's no longer okay to do that. You've got to use the best tool for the job at hand. So if you can't figure out a way to be efficient with your software, it's like, what's a good analog example? So if you're using a rock to hammer in a nail, not really the best tool for the job. So use a nail. Or use a nail to hammer in another nail.
That would not be very efficient.
It's true, but whenever someone rolls out trace paper and starts a whole project again, I'm like, well, you're nailing in a nail with a nail, right? You want to find the hammer. You want to find a good solid hammer. And so thinking in terms of a tech stack is how software industry thinks. In architecture, when you start thinking the same way. And it can be something small like billing. If you're using QuickBooks, well, it's not the best solution for an architecture firm anymore. I might actually take a look at Monograph. It's it's really a great UX kind of software, but it's built specifically for architecture firms.
Yeah,
it helps track your time. And Robert Ewan, he's an architect and he's helping build software for architecture.
Yeah, Robert's a good friend of mine and an advisor, sort of an informal advisor to EntreArchitect. Been on the show several times. We'll put links on the show notes for that as well. I agree. Monograph is a beautiful software. One of my favorite things, and he's actually Monograph is a membership sponsor here at EntreArchitect, and so I agree. Check out Monograph. Monograph.io. We'll have links to that.
Yeah, and I didn't even get paid for that spot.
Robert will appreciate it.
Another thing, if you're interested in doing modular, go find a factory. Go find somebody that does modular. Small firms can easily kind of. The interesting thing about small firms is that they can move very quickly. If they choose to move quickly, they can. They don't have to go through a committee. They don't have to do anything to get this process approved or whatever. You can just go. So Joel Hutchines at Splash Modular, they do bathroom pods, and they're really, really good at bathroom pods. So don't reinvent the wheel. Don't try to create your own bathroom pod. Just talk to them. They know how to do it.
That's some great advice. I think that there are many architects that have those ideas and have the innovative solutions to the problems that we see in the world. And I think a lot of us, because of the personalities of most architects or many architects, we're afraid. There's risk involved in some of that. And I know that from firsthand with some of the decisions I've made over the years. It takes a lot of courage to break through that fear to get to where you want to go and solve some of the problems that you want to solve. EntreArchitect is a perfect example of that, of the idea that I had for that and what I wanted it to become. I had to make some decisions to push through that fear to keep moving forward. So if you have an idea like that, I would definitely take up Clifton and his suggestion to just go do it. Just make it happen, and find some people who are doing innovative things and surround yourself with those people. So you can find the courage together to make those things happen. The website is testfit.io. Testfit.io. You can go check it out. They have some great information. Explains exactly what it is. Has a great video, so you can see how it works. You can even get a demo. You can sign up for a demo and get a demo for it. Clifton, this has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed talking to you about TestFit and about the future of architecture and where we may find ourselves in the not too far distant future. Thanks for joining us today and sharing your knowledge here at EntreArchitect Podcast. Yeah,
thanks for having me. Really appreciate the platform, opportunity to talk about what we do, and we're open to connecting with anybody that's interested in us as well.
Is the best place to connect with you on testfit.io? Is there a place to connect with you there?
Yeah, there's chat bubbles. There's there's a million ways to give us your contact information. You also send me an email. It's just clifton@testfit.io. We're on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm all over the place.
All right. Sounds good. We'll have links to all of that on the show notes. It's episode 297, EntreArchitect.com/episode 297. Clifton, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you've been listening to episode 297 with Clifton Harness of TestFit. If you like this show, if you have found some value, if this inspired you or motivated you, or you think someone that might benefit from listening to this, share this link with a friend. Share this episode. It's episode 297, and the link is EntreArchitect.com/episode 297. Please share it with a friend. If you haven't visited our new homepage at EntreArchitect.com, now's the time. Head over there now. Check it out. We redesigned it to be more useful for small firm architects like you. Find everything you need to help you build a better business. Links to this podcast, a search engine to find all the articles, resources, podcast episodes, everything we do. You can just search for it. It'll pop right up there for you. Access to powerful products and resources, and access to all our EntreArchitect membership levels. It's all there at EntreArchitect.com. It's all there in one place for you right now, EntreArchitect.com. Go check it out and let me know what you think. Let me know if we can make it even better. How can we make it better? How can we help you build a better business as a small firm entrepreneur architect? Let us know. Love, learn, and share what you know. Thanks for listening this week. Have a great one.
Imagine earning continuing education credits while doing exactly what you're doing right now. Well, you can. Gable Media has revolutionized the way you earn your continuing education credits with a groundbreaking approach. Forget running around town and scouring the internet for credit-worthy courses. Fulfill your CE requirements effortlessly by listening to engaging podcasts just like the one you're listening to now. Our podcasts are designed to educate, entertain, and inspire, all in a user-friendly environment. But wait, there's more. Architects, Gable Media is also approved as an AIA continuing education services provider. Upon completion, we handle everything, from reporting your hours directly to the AIA to storing your certificates in your personal Gable Media profile for your self-reporting needs. So follow the link in the show notes and start earning your credits in the most innovative and entertaining way possible with Gable Media.
Attention architects and creative minds, get ready to supercharge your brand with Build Your Brand, the podcast that's unlocking the secrets of branding success for creatives. Hey there, it's Mark Arlepage, founder of EntreArchitect, and I'm inviting you to join my friend, architect marketing expert Jeff Eccles at Build Your Brand podcast, where he explores the captivating stories of the world's top brands and transforms their lessons into powerful moves for small firm architects and creatives like you. In Season 1, Jeff shares the thrilling tale of Southwest Airlines, where he dissects their journey to the summit and distills it into strategies tailor-made for you.
It's important to keep in mind that companies like Southwest compete in the real world, just like you, and face real-world challenges, just like you. You might be surprised at how similar those challenges are to the struggles that you grapple with on a day-to-day basis.
Don't miss out on your blueprint for success. Subscribe, tune in, and let's build your brand together.
You may have noticed that the very best brands in the world are also known for having somewhat unique corporate cultures. That's often the glue that holds everything together when they encounter those rough spots.
We don't do it because it inconveniences the passengers to whom we are primarily dedicated, the short haul, frequent flyer.
Follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Your Brand today. Remember, no matter the size, the journey's the same. Your brand's journey to the top starts here.